Hi guys, it's us again, the Neuro Artmeditation. You can always find us on Facebook, Neuromeditation and Awakening Consciousness. I quickly want to talk to you about diagnostics. I'm not even sure if I mentioned it, but again, we're working on the online course to bring this whole process to you in the easiest way possible. And right now we're working on diagnostics. I was lucky enough to get permission from one of our group sessions for a couple of people to use their work. And let's just get into it right away. So this was an actual a business project, a development of a business project. Now, I want to bring your attention to the starting point, development, and the outcome expected. Now, in this picture, I want you guys to see how the author, because this was only guided in the sense as to what you should focus on, what your outcome should be. Now, when it was time to represent yourself, this person chose to represent himself in this area, okay, kind of on the lower side. Now this was the developing process. He was working with a partner, and the way he's seen this whole process, and this was the outcome. Now the way the process was seen to him is something that needed to be looked at again and again, because the issue was seeing yourself as a huge asset is something that he had to work on. Also, seeing yourself as an equal partner was equally important to focus on, because in order to get the huge outcome and to feel like you are a part of something, you need to sometimes dig deeper, and things come out. Things come out where this particular gentleman felt like he is not bringing enough to the table. And then if you look at a picture, you could see that he doesn't see himself as somebody who brings enough to the table. So he needed to have a few sessions and develop a certain way of looking at himself, do a little more self-work in order to get here and to feel the accomplishment that he was looking for, to feel like he was a part of something. Now, this is, now that I explain it, it's a little easier to see, but it is not always easy to see. And especially if you meet a lot of people face to face and you see this already successful person having these issues, and it's something that everybody can really work on. So that was his diagnosis of his process. Now this is very interesting. These pictures are going to be the same. I think these come from one of the people in the group. Again, if you guys want to participate, look at pictures or submit pictures, you can always send us an email. We will send you tutorials. We will send you information, or just simply visit, add yourself to our group and participate the Neuro Meditation and Awakening Consciousness group on Facebook. So this was the same project for everybody. And okay, let's just get into it. So this is one of things that we were drawing. It was the same project again for everyone, so that's why I have a few pictures of the same thing. This is a tree of abundance. This particular one is self-worth, growing self-worth, things that you already have, things that you are desired to have, a certain way you look at yourself, a certain way you present yourself. Just give yourself a lot of value. This part is actually you, so this is where you want to be. Wonderful colors. Some things were kind of undermined. This was originally just a whole bunch of little circles, which after looking at them, we realized that it was pretty much part of one same huge asset that this girl was really downplaying. Next picture, same exact project, right? So you can see this picture is a little different. Now there's a lot of resources here. There's a lot of color here. Some in the middle, you see this part usually represents you. Part of this is a tree. This is the roots, the ground that you build on. Again, all the resources that you have available. The choices of colors are yours, but a lot of the times, which we will get into in our online course, the colors are very telling a lot of the times. That's why I choose not to recommend any colors. I want you guys to completely choose the colors yourself completely. Sometimes the line I prefer to be a darker color, just so it's easier to go through it and to kind of put everything together, but not always. So this is kind of where we wanted to end up. This is what we grow on our money tree, in this case, money tree. So this is where he wanted to be. Okay. Now, what I am getting to is, this was from the same session. Yeah. Okay. This, guys, was from the same session. And even though the trees that you've seen before are quite similar, and we have the same process, now the key is, this is how the person seeing himself. To me, as a trained eye, it's easy to see that there was no person here. The tree trunk itself, okay, is almost non-existent. Very often things jump out from the picture that are easy to diagnose, things that you do not see, okay? This was not done purposefully. This is something we look at and we say, okay, so you kind of need to focus on something else. Like, what is this, you know? What this part represents? Do you realize that this is what's going on? Because this is where we get into nitty-gritty subconscious issues that people are not always willing to discuss, but this was an open group. We were doing all, again, the same project. As a whole, as the trunk, as the building block of this project, it was you. Again, you have your resources, you have your roots, something you build on. You have your expectations and outcomes and the future that you see. If the middle is represented in such way that it kind of gets lost in everything, it's a huge telling sign. We're not going to get into as to what it tells you, but I just want you to know that this is the reason we want to diagnose a lot of the pictures, because things kind of jump out at us that you are not used to seeing. But in our course, we'll try to explain most of them. Till this day, there are still very surprising things that we see. This was one of them. You don't usually see things like flowers and leaves in our pictures, but this was I believe it was self-love project. Now this part didn't start as a flower, but as everything came together and progressed, this was a very, very obvious picture of what this project represents for this specific girl. And her self-love was something that is very organic. It is something that is very beautiful, that she was able to grow within herself. And this art, it's one of the pictures that I call it the picture that literally speaks to you, because most pictures, it's a little difficult to see what it is. But then once in a while, you have people who kind of tells you what their brain is doing. You can read their brain, their mind, their conscious and their subconscious in their picture. And to her, it represented something that is very beautiful and that is also growing. She understands that this is a growing process. This is a step-by-step process. Not all the pictures are finished all at the same time, but that's why we have our course, so we can walk you through it. You can always come back to a certain picture. You can always contact us at neuroartmeditation@gmail. Again, so we can start communicating together on anything that you wanna know. There's always more information in our Facebook group, Neuromeditation and Awakening Consciousness. There are other people's pictures, and it's a very lively group where you can interact and help us build our course, because it is ultimately our goal is to do it for you, to design it in a way we address all the issues. It's a lengthy course, but it's a lot of fun. We're going to teach you to meditate while you're doing your art. We're going to teach you to diagnose, and we're going to teach you how to let the art guide you through a certain process. And it's not always the same process, and it's not always the same picture, because it really depends on where you are going with a certain project. And some projects, like this one that I showed you guys, the kind of business growing development, it's a project that requires few steps, because just ultimately, because it requires more people to deal with. This is not an inside kind of your own issue. This is something that you are building, and it requires more than one step, sometimes more than 2 or 3 steps, because as you go along, you realize that there are more issues that you need to address. And that is exactly what we are bringing to you very, very soon. And we're very, very happy that we're able to do this. Thank you, and see you soon.